Unbelievable. Up and down, left and right, gut and punch, fight it out. And one of the most extreme, most orchestrated, and in my opinion, most advanced scheme that I've seen in some years in crypto to legitimately try to liquidate, flush, and deleverage the accounts of retail traders. The news from yesterday is absolutely staggering how many people not only are out of this market now, but were forcibly liquidated out of the market because of greed, because of the gambling nature, because not wanting to go through a sound strategy. Last night, going down to $1.13, going down and holding that $1.18 area it's a signal. We're looking for a few other signals to see if this can be a real bounce or not. But we know we're stuck within this pattern formation. We know the optic of if we do hold and we get past 134, 150, and 156, you start talking about that $1.77, $1.76. And we talked about this many times on the way down that we technically can still fill this out and we can stay very bearish within here. One of the things that is obviously frightening to me on this drop, of that big of a drop, the volume is that low. That almost seems to be a real big red herring right now. So I'm watching that very closely because usually volume will predict the price if you can flip the overall trend. This volume portfolio is atrocious for that kind of a drop. And I'm not going to act like I didn't buy a couple of things to try to swing it. But as far as a long-term vision, I'm not convinced right now at all. There was a few things that I decided to dabble in, basically because that was the only thing that it told me to. There was a few, but XDC was the big one. Obviously, we watch it at every level. I circled that level for a reason. And as long as it held that area, I'm trying to ride it now back up to the top if the market wants to do that. But I'm not convinced. I don't see any volume. My fear is this is just going to rotate right back down going into the weekend because we're not getting the volume portfolio I want. Am I happy that it's up 23% in one day? Am I happy XRP bounced? I am, but still. I thought if we're going to get a profound bounce back, it's going to be one of two things. Because we talked about it yesterday about how we had to have this big rebound back. I talked about in the short last night, I tried to come on because I couldn't come on late to do a live, and I won't be able to today either. Scarlett, the middle schooler, she's doing her play yesterday. The day before on Wednesday to the school is the dry run. She's been working on it all year. She made the theater, whatever they call it at her school now, but they tried out in the beginning of the year. She made it. And even better, during the tryout, she ended up making like the first chair now. So one of 5 people who has a mic, and there's a lot of people in it. It's going to be like, it's an over 2-hour play. There's an intermission. There's concessions. It's like you're going to a normal play. It's the Freaky Fridays. So we're going tonight at it's 7 to 9:30, I believe. It's either 7 or 7:30 it starts, but it goes until 9:30. She did it last night, came home. By the time she showered and got into her room to go to bed, it was already 10:30, and then she had to get back to school by 6, roughly 6:30. So that's going to be something fun. So I'll be doing that tonight. Nothing against the audience, but I've been looking forward to this for a long time. And then as far as the charts go, it's a big thing. It's a big thing with the market right now. The volume that is being put in right now is a red flag that this is a liquidity sweep, and we're hopeful that we can get a further push up here. We're way oversold in the daily still. The weekly's pushing down, which is always scary because even where it's at right now, if we don't push up farther, we could drag ourselves back down in the next 2 days, and this is going to be a very bearish weekly candle. We need to make sure we overtake at least the 20-day here. So in some way, shape, form, fashion, right now is going to be the time where it's going to come back down to 142 probably and try to test that area. And I only say that because 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the USA gets engaged. This is usually where we get the most volatility to try to, one way or the other. Now, if we continue going up, the next area, it is $1.50, but for me, I don't really care so much about the $1.50. I care about this $1.56. Because if we get a legitimate back test here, well, we won't know until we get a back test. That's the breakdown out of the descending triangle. Look at it in a logical way. After a breakdown, we came all the way down from the last resistance on this pattern was all the way up at $2.41. So now you talk about from the last high from the pattern resistance to the breakdown of the pattern support, there is a swing high of $2.41. The breakdown was $1.56, but now we have a swing low of right around, we'll call it $1.12. So we have a $1.12 swing low, $2.41 swing high, even a 50% pullback from there. You're talking about coming up well past here in a normal circumstance, like maybe coming back up to $1.75. Now with the volume portfolio, this is where it's going to lead us. We don't have any data right now. We need to wait for the data when it gets right here. So my expectation is it should work its way back up there. Now that we secured that $1.34, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. So let's see how it reacts there. And if we get, and it's a telling sign right now that the stochastic is already up in the overbought. And it's just entering it. But if we get to $1.56, you better believe it's going to be massively overbought. The 3-hourly is already trending in a pretty interesting spot. The 2-hourly is significantly oversold. The hourly is working itself in a weird way as well. Like, even though we are pushing up, there's no major flushes to allow this to reset itself, which is always dangerous. Because it looks like an unabated push up with no sell volume. And that seems a little odd because normally when you get these movements, you get quick in and out, in and out. So that's what I'm looking at right now. The optics right now are saying we better pay attention to $1.56 and see if we can get a spike here when we get to here with volume and see how it reacts, because that's the descending triangle. So that's what I'm looking at right now to see if we can get an extended run. So if anybody asks, is it going to keep running? I have 0% chance I can possibly know that right now. The only thing that would stop us from that thesis of $1.56 is if we rotate back down to $1.42 and can't hold it. If we can't hold the 20-day, then we're going to go all the way back down to $1.34 and retest that move up right there. But if we're making the run up to $1.56, it almost doesn't seem to make sense to just drop right back down unless this is going to be a more sustained run. So to the person who got a lucky 45x trade and now feels like God, don't push that message in here. I guarantee you 1,000% you're losing more money than you're gaining on 45x. 100% promise you. Even the best trader in the world, you can't predict a 1.5% spike. You can't. Or a downfall. Because how many times do you see a 7% drop that supersedes a 15% rise, or even a 2.5% quick flush, and then 27 seconds later it pulls back up and is up 7% when it's ready to make the run? Don't get into that mindset. Congratulations on making $3,000, and I'm happy for you. But that's not the right approach, honestly. I'm glad that you got that trade, but don't get too cocky. You know, be happy. Don't push a message of gambling, because that's when you start to get too big-headed, especially at 45x. Now, if you came in here and said, okay, guys, learn the 3x, you know, we get into a melt outside or 5x. 45x, man, is fighting the dragon. Telling you, the bear's going to come out and slice you. There was a solo trader who lost $222 million roughly. It was a little bit more than that. $230 million, $220 million on a trade on Ethereum on this past flush. So it's good when it's good, but when they want to grab your balls and rip them out, yeah, you'll feel it. I'm not talking about this trade, my friend, Mr. Gay. I'm not talking about this trade. I said congratulations on this trade. I said going down the road. This is where you got to keep those emotions in check and don't preach gambling. And if you're going to do it, be safe with it, because 9 times out of 10, you made a good trade. But do that 10 times and see what happens at 45x. And then come back and tell me your case study. If you come back and say you hit 9 out of 10, well, you might be the greatest trader of all times. Or you just might understand something in a rhythmic pattern that you've unlocked, which that's why I want to know. I see what you're saying. No, when you, well, I mean, it is only gambling when you don't know what you're doing. That's true to an extent, but when you're doing 45x, I'm the most seasoned veteran you could ever come across with knowledge when it comes to charting and everything in between. 45x, I can tell you for a fact, my friend, is gambling. It's 100% gambling. Um, so you've already done it 10 times. I've been doing this for 10 years. Um, okay, so let's see. So since you have a lot of experience, now we can dig in. So do you use this strategy only on liquidity? No. This is interesting for me, MQ. This is interesting, the leverage trading. I'm not going into a pissing fight. I'm actually getting somewhere. Because if somebody has knowledge, you try to break it down. So do you use that strategy when it's a leveraging event? Like when we get a severe flush? Like what is your strategy at that level? I'm generally interested. No, no, no. Stop focusing on the numbers and don't get offended. It's gambling because you're going 45x. You can have a stop loss, but that's great. But if you have a stop loss on and you lose 10% each time, you see what I'm saying. I'm trying to find a sound strategy, but let's move on. Because I don't want to get into an emotional debate. I'm actually being serious when I was asking you because I wanted to know. I'm not breaking your balls. I'm just, for the general audience, that's gambling. That's the point. Yes, with leverage trading, you should only be scalping. Okay, see, now that I like. I like that. See, so at least you have the understanding of how to do this, and you understand the scalping side of it as well. But you just got to understand the average person has a hard time spot trading. Sort of, the 45x is that's the whole point. That's why I came in strong. But right now, for XRP, I mean, we're going to find ourselves in a spot here if we don't pull in some volume on this push up if it continues. It's across the board. Right now, we're seeing a big problem with the volume, and I'll get into the volume in just a second. Good morning. 10:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Friday, February 6th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. A special shout out real quick to the sponsors of this very live. As you don't see any ads during the live because of our very generous sponsors. And that's the members of Tom's Army. We're insourced here, not outsourced. So the members of Tom's Army, each and every person you see with their badge next to their name, sponsors this beautiful program in front of you so I don't have to seek outside revenue. I wish more people would join Tom's Army, but to the ones who have, you're a huge blessing to what I do here so I can keep this on the free and ever-flowing information chain. So I really appreciate that. Greatly appreciate it. So, XRP up 21.49%. We started, I believe, what did we start this week at? Just so we can get a real feel on this weekly candle. Because these are what you want to see. We want to see how we're going to dig out of here. So the future started this week. So we were up as high. What, is that right? I was going to say, there's no way. Oh, yeah, I forgot it topped off. So $1.85. So we swung from $1.85 all the way down to approximately $1.13. And now if you look at it, we're pretty much in the 50% retracement zone area. So we've gained 30 something cents, 25 cents, but 30 cents legitimately, 34 cents from the bottom. You take another 34 cents from here, you're up to $1.80. We started at this weekly, what did it say? $1.80. No, not that one. We don't want to go to the futures. Somewhere around $1.80. We'll call it $1.84, even though it was a little bit higher. So we're basically in the middle. So we're basically in the middle of this retracement. So now we're looking for a few key attributes here. One, how's the volume looking? Well, let's take a look. We'll go through a couple different ones for XRP. Weekly volume, sell volume has absolutely surged. That's a massive spike. Now let's break it down to see if it's all sell volume. Daily, interesting. It's a very interesting candle right now because that's at a massive pull up. The 4 hourly, what kind of green volume are we seeing on this massive pull up? Not even close to the sell volume. That's a problem. At the end of the day, if this continues, this is when you start, and I don't know if it would be this 4 hour candle, obviously, but that's when you start to see everything's looking good, but this is a volumeless drive up. We hit a point of resistance, and all of a sudden, before you know it, that candle flips, and it ends up being on the next candle, possibly a reversal at some point. So that's what we're watching for here. We still have room. There's a couple different areas of room, $1.57, that $1.73 if we want to keep trying to come up. Actually, I think it can extend to $1.77. But I'm looking for that $1.50 and then $1.56 right off the bat if we continue up. Those are the two key areas. I'm also trying to see if we can get some volume in here. Tom, the XRP volume has been over 1 million during this activity. Well, yeah, it has to be. XRP needs to move $1 billion or 57 billion. Think about it, $57 billion per dollar moved. So there's got to be a lot of activity, but it's relative. It's relative to the flow. You know, it's great that we're getting $1 billion or $1 million in volume or 21 million, but you got to remember it's relative to the size. We have 57 billion tokens, so it's relative. Though it sounds, for XRP, it always sounds better because there's a lot of volume, it seems like, moving in, but there's so many tokens moving that for most tokens, that would be extraordinary volume. But for XRP, this is nothing out of the ordinary. This is actually relatively super low volume. If you want to look at it from a historical sense. You know, even at least the sell volume in the dailies, if you look at it, was registering the sell volume. At least you can see the wall. You can see a little bit of red, but when you try to get the green, even when I extend it out like this, you know, it's very hard. Now, if we can get into this next closing of the candle, now if I go like this and we try to find 4 hour volume, you can see even how low that was to the sell volume. So we're looking for, and this doesn't mean it's just going to die. We're just looking for some kind of spike. Otherwise, you get into a scenario like this, and when it gets up here, it just dies back down. And that's exactly what it's going to start doing if that happens. We need to see some kind of exponential volume. We want to see something, even something like this would be nice, where we overtake a few 4 hour candles to prove a point that we have some flow. Even a little candle like this to give us a little momentum. But it's been a while since we've seen a cluster of good volume. Like if we go into the daily, it's been a while. If we go into the weekly, it's been a while since we've had a great cluster. Like, look at that. There's no volume right now. That's the volume. Even the push up in 2024, you could see there was something not so right about it. The volume portfolio in comparison to 2021, it was so low. It still is low. No matter what exchange you go to, it's so low, super low. On some of them, it's lower than the others. But it gives you a real nice interpretation of that red volume right now. And yeah, it's been a remarkable pull up. And I want to come on here and be like, we just broke $1.56 and we're out of the woods now, that's all. Tom, do we need to track volume on the ETFs? Yes, but it's a separate category. ETF and crypto have nothing to do with each other. In fact, if you have higher volume on the ETF, it's taking money out of the crypto exchange, which is more likely to have a breakdown. So we do have to track it, but it's not apples to apples. It actually drives the liquidity out of the crypto market. I'm not going to keep talking about this, Xavier. You don't have to justify it to me. I'm just saying it's gambling. If I put $10 on the table and there's a 45x, and now it becomes $90, you're gambling. Simple. Just because I only bring $200 to the casino and I'm willing to lose it to try to make a chunk, it doesn't make it any less gambling if I'm playing, you know, Texas Hold'em just because I'm good at it. I'm still gambling. And better yet, if I was playing Texas Hold'em and I put a 45x leverage tag next to it, which means I could only lose 2.5% of my hands that I play, or I could get whittled down with fees with the big blind, small blind, just like you do on the buy and sell, just like you do on the, depending on what the funding fees are. You know, that's all. It's gambling. It's not relative to the amount you spend. It's relative to the risk in the dollar. Whether it's $100 or $10, it's relative to the risk. You're putting a 45x. That means you've got a 2.5% window. And that's if you know how to properly margin your account. In reality, you've got about a 1.5% window of market movement, so that's gambling. I apologize if that's what it is, but any kind of leverage trading is gambling. You're putting an added risk that's not necessary over the top of a spot purchase. If I go in to buy a store and I have cash to pay, or I have to take out a 20% interest rate to pay for this, I'm gambling that I'm going to be able to make profit on this purchase. It's risk reward. You're always gambling. Just like even when you invest in something, it's a gamble at 1x. So at 45x, you've increased your risk by 45 times that. It's a gamble. No offense. That's just terminology. You can fight it every which way you want, but it's still gambling. Just like I could fight every which way I want that I have two eyes that I should be able to see out of, but the left eye doesn't work. So I'm gambling to say that if I close my right eye, I'd be able to live a daily life. I'm not going to be able to. Not in the way I do now. I couldn't even do the charts. I don't want to take that gamble, so I'm going to keep the sight. My right eye open. I'm not going to gamble. I'm not going to take a 50% chance at it. That's all. It doesn't matter if you're willing to lose it. That's just a cheap thing you tell yourself. So when you lose it, you're okay with it. You should never be okay to lose it. I'm not in trading to lose money. But it's still gambling. If I go bet on FanDuel and I think I got an odds locked on and I say I'm going to put $200 on my account to bet on Michigan to beat this team, and then instead of doing a 1-to-1 bet, I go and look at something that's plus 4,500 in the bet, and I put the same money on it, and I say, well, the return is so much greater. Or plus, what I'm saying, the return's so much greater. I don't care if I lose the $200. That's me justifying to myself that it's not a gamble. That's still a gamble. That's the truth. See, you need to learn market psychology. You might be good at it, If you say you're gambling when trading, it just means you don't know what you're doing. That's absolutely asinine. No, it means you know what you're doing. See, you have no clue what you're talking about, unfortunately. You might be good at what you do, but from a teaching standpoint, you're going to bankrupt the entire lot of retail to get into your own pocket. I'm just trying to tell you, my friend. Yes, in your spot accounts to an extent, we're still gambling on the investment. Because there's 50, like for XRP, we're gambling even when we invest. Because we know for a fact 43% of the circulating supply still has to be put into the total circulating, the tokens. So we're even taking a gamble on spot. You're investing by nature, you're gambling. Dan, why do you guys want me to move on? This is stuff you guys should want to hear. This is the truth about trading. This is human psychology. Human and market psychology. This is the stuff I crave. This is the stuff I desire. This is the stuff I seek out from people in the audience to keep it fresh. Xavier's doing me a justice here. Don't be so closed-minded, everybody. Listen. Listen to all of this. There's a reason I talk about this. Some things I take that I think is important. I'm not hating on Xavier. I actually appreciate this right now. I'm just trying to get the understanding. Like, the real part of this is in a 1-minute trade, like if you're on 45x, that one movement right there, that's about a 50% movement. So that's all it took. And now you see how quick it reversed. But that's all it took to almost liquidate a trade that was taken at $1.48.7 if somebody did it right there. Now this 1-minute candle, this 5-minute candle, we'll see if it can produce volume in all of this, and we'll see what happens when we get up here, but oh man, you can't make this up. So because you're willing to lose it, it's not a gamble. That tickles me. Thank you, Xavier. You've just tickled me this morning. Oh man, is that the logic retail is using? No joke. That has nothing to do with Xavier at this point. This is an overall message, Dan. Look at this as a wider understanding. Because this is what most retail thinks. When you ask me why you shouldn't listen to most media, most social media, most people that tell you how to trade, this is the mindset. It's not gambling if you're willing to lose it. How many social media stations push that message? Almost all of them. So that's something. That is something. XLM up 11.9% on the day. Put in a nice inverse pattern there on the drop in the shorter time frames. If we look at it, 2 hourly got in that pretty oversold area or overbought area already. 4 hourly, we're not seeing a sustainable drive of volume now. At least we increased on this candle a little bit. We want to see a volume spike. If we can get a nice volume spike, that could drive us all the way back up to this drop point. We had significant drop points. Significant. And right now, we haven't even retaken the low of the last candle, which that's inherently bearish if we were to stay under 16.6 at the close on Sunday. So we've got work to do. We've got work to do. But it's starting off. It's starting to do some work. It's starting to do some work. But the fear is that it's going to come up here where the break point was, and it's just going to get slapped. And that's not up at the blue line, FYI. We got to look at the mediocre target, or the micro. You know, you could come in like this. You can come in like this, however you want. But we're coming up to this area, is the point. We're going to come up to this area in a very quick way. And we're going to figure out what's up. The whole market is right now. In the next hour, 2 hours, we're going to know a lot more than we do right now. I'm already seeing a negative correlation with volume. So that's something that scares me right off the bat. But hey, we'll see if the market can overtake and it's a volumeless push up. The first two I'll still subscribe to. The third, I've learned my lesson. I mean, I like that DeFi. That's a fair way to say it. Elmer, thanks for the $10 super chat and also being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. You are welcome, Elmer. I just want to do one thing real quick. Definition of gambling. So we can take the whole non-biased gambling, the activity of playing games of chance for money, or of betting on the outcome of future events such as the results of races or games. So aren't we just betting on the future results of XRP appreciating? Or when you take out a 45X, aren't you just betting on the fact that you think it's going to appreciate? That's all. Play a game of chance for money. We already know that. Take risky action in the hope of a desired result. Isn't escalating to a 45X instead of even a spot trade? You're taking risky action so that you can exemplify how much you're going to gain on that $300. Early 18th century in gambling, ultimately from game, there may be a connection with the obsolete from gambling, playing of games. Aren't we just playing a game with our own money? In the stock market, crypto market, forex market, metals markets. Okay, ready? There's a word for this. I just don't want to say it. So, here. We'll see what they say. National Helpline for Mental Health. Look. You can't make that up. Look what happened when I typed this into Google, what it came up with. They're asking you to get help for gambling addiction. I'm cute. It may be a waste of time, but sometimes you gotta look at the lighter side of things. You know, what a stressful time. Would never gamble. Anyhow, it's okay. I'm just having a little bit of fun this morning. We got to have a little lighter side sometimes. Joseph, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Bad, and also gifting a sub this morning. What a beautiful gesture. Gifted it to Future Hope. Ironically, the future. I'm not laughing at you, Future. Welcome to Tom's Army. It's just ironic that we were talking about the future stuff and the future outlook, and then Future is now in Tom's Army, and that is my face superimposed on there. I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna give it a break. I'm not gonna feed into it anymore. I'm pissing MQ off, and that is not what I want to do. So, right now, we're coming up at those crucial crossroads. We did come up over here. We've got about $1.56, in my opinion, is going to be that next area. This isn't even anything, honestly. I don't even know why this is up here anymore. Because you could look at this legitimately, but that doesn't even need to be there. The real crossroad here is this $1.56. $1.56, $1.57. But if we get past there, then we can really open the door to this chart. We could really open the door, because then if we did push up, we got to get past this descending triangle. Rejection there, target's 86 cents. Everybody asked, how do we confirm a drop sub $1? Come back test, get rejected here. Get rejected at $1.57. We'll call it, since it's over the top. And break down. Your technical target would now be 86 cents. Is it going to be difficult to get up here? Maybe. But we still have room in the 4 hourly. I'm not so much worried because the volume is starting to pick up here at the end of this candle. That's what we talked about at the open. Can we pick up a little bit? At least on this chart it is. Let's look at the other ones. Maybe that's just chart specific. No, see, we're still increasing in volume. It's not the greatest volume portfolio, but we're still increasing. That's a good thing, at least. It gives me the understanding that we can, well, this chart doesn't look that great, but that we can get past here. But this is your first legitimate resistance. This $1.50 is your first wall. Now that we're above that $1.34. So we are at the we are at that $1.50 area. Now I get it, MQ. I get that. I definitely get that. And I respect that. Ooh, that, let's see. That's the 3 hour. Yeah, the 2 hour is super overextended already. That's for sure. I mean, we're looking at that over the top area if we can get past $1.50, but we got to get past there first, because my biggest fear is that we're going to end up reversing one of these candles and turn it into a doji reversal, like a bearish doji, better known as a long leg doji, and that could quickly bring you down 15%, 10%, and like that if it does it. Kind of prefer we go back to $1.30, not before trying for the... Personally, as long as we don't break $1.50 and try to test $1.56, I have no problem with it going back to $1.34, let's call it. $1.30 is a little steep for me. I want to start using that $1.34 now that we came all the way through. I would like to use that $1.34, which was the cup and handle, on the initial break out of that 7-year consolidation. Now I would like to use that area as a support. Otherwise, my fear is we're going to come down, even if we don't come to 86. We started to build this pattern in a rejection, even if we come all the way up, anything short of coming past that $1.66 and retaking that area or getting rejected on a downtrend if it takes us until the middle of February, that would inherently bring us down here, because we've identified a pattern that's opened up here. And I think it's okay to go after it. If we don't break this downtrending resistance, which is also what started that problem with the descending triangle that we broke down out of, and we're trying to see at $1.56 if it comes up. We started a pattern here. So we had a support. So we go back to support on February of 25. Then we have April of 25. Then the historic flush October 10th. We hit it a third time. So Now, if we cannot get out here, this tells me 91 cents is, or no, it's not 91. If we come farther, we're just going to call it for 86. We'll line it up with 86. It tells me that 86 is absolutely can hit. And then we have to decide, is it going to squeeze down and through? Or is it going to squeeze back out if this actually plays out? So that's absolutely there. But we have to make sure that we don't overtake these sections because we're significantly oversold, almost historically in some avenues, especially Bitcoin was before. But the volume looks like trash is the biggest problem. That's why I started out on here and said, listen, I'm all happy that we're moving up, but we need some freaking volume if we're going to just go unabated. Otherwise, this just feels like another trap. You know, and the technical re-push back up, we're almost there. Even if I was looking at this with no other intel, I'd say 150.7 is where we're going to come up to even on that drop to retest the drop because that's where the gap is at. You got the expansion down, back up and down. We never retested it, which leaves a nice little gap right around 150.7 in my opinion. So now is this going to be a bearish tap? You know, that's the first area. That's just my opinion. I'm not smarter than everybody else, I promise. C to 177, then comes wave 3 down, taking out yesterday's low. I don't hate that either. It's just, I want to make sure we can get there. I don't know if we're going to get there to $1.77. It's definitely on the sheet. I talked about $1.77 a day, so I love that area. And actually, it would be kind of, if it did that, that would be pretty crazy. That would be the retest up here, FYI, in this part of the pattern. It comes through here and it hits this resistance. And then you could just take out this area across because we've identified the pattern. I just keep this in there just in case. So we can see that push back up where that initial drop was, where I thought it left, you know, just a small little area here of interest. Because it kind of gapped it. We kind of left a little gap there. So it was an area of interest when it was breaking down. I don't know, I just found it interesting in that spot, especially when you go back in the chart. Where was it at? Yeah, because it runs through support, both those areas. It was just an interesting area to me. But if we can just get past there, then it does. It opens up like, where's it at right now? $1.77. And that would absolutely, once again, validate this pattern as well, because we went to support. Now we technically have been consolidating through the pattern median. Didn't quite push all the way back down to 88, 90 cent area. We went down to $1.13, but we had already previously come down and hit a new support down there on the October 10th liquidation. So we'll make sure to keep an eye on this spot right here. Because if we do hit $1.70, what the hell? If we do hit $1.77, that would leave us somewhere hitting right there. So what date does that say? So if we're gonna get up there, it's gonna be, you know, we'll see. It doesn't matter. We can hit it way down here too, and then it just has an overextended spike or whatever. It doesn't really matter where it actually hits. But right now, I can't worry about $1.77 just because we have immediate movement. I can't even worry about $1.56 right now because we have even more immediate movement. So that's how I kind of work things on my own chart. See $1.57 right there again? But we have to get into the dire movement. It's right here. So the dire movement right now, and look, that target was $1.34 initially. It couldn't hold it. It couldn't hold it. So I would like to see that area hold if we're going to come back down, maybe create even a shoulder. But right now, this is my interest point. $1.50. If you extend it out, it's 151. So, I mean, you can put it there. Actually, you know what? I might put it there. But there are two immediate zones. Yeah, I probably would put it there, to be honest. We know $1.50, but I'm going to put it right there just for transparency. I think that's even better. So 151 is our first area of concern. I know $1.50, but technically on this chart, if I was looking at it based on where it's at, I would say $1.51.54. You get over that, then you open up the door to possibly $1.57. You get on top of that, now all of a sudden you're looking at possibly that $1.60. What was it? $1.60. Was it 63 first? If we got up over the top of that short area, I can't remember. Let's see when we get back into here. $1.68. So $1.68 if we can overtake $1.57. And then if you overtake $1.68, then it opens up that $1.77 spike. So we've got to my yeah. Yep. Like there's no one, we can't 100% guarantee it's going to go lower, but if it doesn't retake, for one, if $1.56 doesn't get retaken or $1.57, that's a confirmation for a push sub $1 to 86 cents in itself. You get back within that target, well, then you have to kind of start to look again, because if we get a bunch of volume that comes in within the triangle, since we already technically broke down, we didn't over break down to the exact technical target to the 100%, but this could be a bullish reversal, and then that would be a way that you could tell if you broke back up. So we can't, there's no way of ever saying we're going to 100% go back down. It's impossible. Anybody who says they can 100% say it, that's kind of that's a stretch of the truth. So, you know, we don't know. I don't know. And I came on very honest and I said, there's no way I can possibly know until first we had $1.51. And ultimately, to me, that $1.57, we'll call it, at the descending triangle breakdown, that's where we need to know. That's where we need to know. So I'll never come on here and say it's a guarantee of, well, except back in 21, because there was just obvious things lining up. And in 23, but I don't do that anymore. I'm a different kind of, I do things different. I don't want shock value. I want real audience. And as you can see, with the leverage traders and the whole scale of Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency market, as you see in the title, 579,506 traders were wiped to zero. Between XRP, Bitcoin, and the alts, $2.6 billion was wiped out of crypto holders by gambling. So the crypto bloodline is getting wiped out step by step by the psyop of over-leveraging and inexperienced traders doing the leveraging, which results in a big gambling heist. And what my conspiracy is, they want us to gamble, so if we lose, if we gamble and lose on spot, at least we still have the tokens. But if we gamble and lose in leverage, the gamble is, even if you're a seasoned veteran, you don't own the tokens. You don't hold the tokens, so you're just risking. And it goes back into the pockets of the exchanges. So 579,506 crypto traders in the last 24 hours that were avid about this this space. Instead of just buying it over time when it was dropping and things like that, they got greedy and they lost all of it and their favorite coins. And now the exchange holds on. Over 500 million tokens of different tokens are now in the crypto exchange's vaults that used to be your own. So are they really buying these tokens, or are they stealing them from us? Are they really buying XRP in these personal exchanges, or are they just gaining them from our over leverage, and now they have a vault constantly building? You know, that's one of the things that scares me, that retail is voluntarily giving the institutions our tokens, and it doesn't get talked about. Nobody says, oh, there was $2.6 billion in, many different tokens that were liquidated via leverage because we were gambling to try to make more than we could. And now that's sitting in the exchange's hands. That's a problem. No, this isn't multiple accounts. This isn't just one account, Xavier. You're missing the point. This can be somebody who has just a leverage account who had $1,000 in there and got liquidated. You know? But yeah, we could absolutely test $2. It could even go higher than that. I agree, MQ. That's why you never know. And you never know if it's going to break down. You never know if it's ever going to go back to those levels. Right now, for algo, 10.4 cents if it continues on this trajectory to retest the breakdown. You know, it's just that simple. We had a historic breakdown. When we're talking about numbers of $2.6 billion liquidated, that can get the market moving in the other direction. We talked about with XRP, yes, sub $1 seems likely, but if that $1.18 level held, that could be used as a rubber band support. Yeah, it came down to 113, but it eventually came back up in a wick twice. And it ended up using $1.18. Not just that, we got back up on top of $1.34. Yeah, my friend, 45x is an over leverage. I'm not going to continue to harp on this. I'm talking about facts. I'm sorry that you're getting so damn emotional over this, but you got to look at it from the whole picture. Congratulations that you don't think it's gambling, but it is. And I've had a good time talking to you, but you got to get your emotions out of this conversation right now, dude. Seriously. Are you just trying to talk shit, or you want to talk technicals? That's all. I'm not hating on you, but there's a time and place for everything, my friend. Right now, everybody really needs to focus on over leverage with all that leverage liquidation, where this can actually go. We're on top of $1.51 right now. Now, if we get to $1.57 and break it, that opens up the door to another 11-cent move possibly if it holds. So another 11 cents from here. You're talking about this could be a 40% move in one day if that happens, or 35% move. Or we have to face the reality of, is there a big brick wall in front of us? Yeah, but opinion from fact are two different things. I'm speaking fact. You're speaking from your own emotion or your own opinion. You know, that's the point. But I get it. So right now we're back within this breakdown area. Look how quick that happened too. Look how quick this reversal happened. It's astounding. It's an astounding reversal right now. And there hasn't been a lot of sell volume here. So my fear is that the moment that they turn the sells on, that this is, right now it's our first big test. We overshot $1.51. Now we're going to see what this does. Either we're going to hold this area or we're going to start folding now. Like this, these are the areas now where we actually have to focus in. We actually have to become locked in now. So I'm not going to even resonate with any other chat if we're not locked into the technicals, because to not be locked in right now is to be doing a huge disservice to this entire community. We were in extreme fear last night of 9. If this could have only continued, we could have finally took out that area. But 9 is good. You know, now we want to see what happens tonight. We want to see what happens tonight. So, what does this say? I wrote on your video a couple months ago that $1.60 was coming. I'm not sure what that means. That $1.60 was coming. Push up on Friday. Drains by Monday like clockwork. Every Friday we do seem to see this before the paychecks come out, don't we? Right before people get paid, we seem to get some kind of push up. Not usually this much, but then again, we did have a better than, what did we say? How big of a drop was it in totality? Just out of curiosity. Because from even that $1.77 where that part is identified as, because we talked about the last resistance on the support line, or resistance, it came down about, what is that, 41% from there. And now you're getting a nice bounce back, but you've still got to go another, and this is a good way to look at it if you ever buy something and then it drops, and then even though it's come up 50% in a day sometimes, why you're still so far down. This, if you bought up here, even though we're up as much as we are, you still got to go another 26.3% in real time to make up for that, you know, conversion. So we're in a weird area right now. Common free breakdown, you've talked about 0.011 for XTC at the worst. Could you tell what level would be for algo? Of course I could. And XTC has had a great rebound so far. Excellent. And right now, the ironic thing is it's playing out this expandable broadening wedge that we talked about. If I don't know how we could make it hit right here, because that actually would make more sense now that it did that. But we had talked about this expanding, broadening wedge and almost like a channel. And look, now if it comes back up to 4.2, now is it going to come up without any? I don't know. My fear is now that everybody's going to get excited this morning, and then even if we do continue up to it, we all know we're going to get some kind of retest somewhere. I don't know where they're going to do it, but we're getting close to that $1.57 now. I didn't think $1.51 was going to stop. I thought $1.57 is where we were going, at least to try to see it. That's a good question, Mary Time. It's always manipulation because it's in a trading algorithm, but it needed to happen. You could see it from a mile away. Not even just this market. Gold and silver and miners had to dump, and now you can see their reversal too a little bit today. It was a whole market-wide thing that happened. They were flushing liquidity. Now it's so extreme from the drops that now you have to flush it back up to try to retest the drop areas. It was just an extreme drop. So, if we wouldn't have had such a big drop yesterday, and this is what I always try to tell everybody, sometimes they play with our emotions. It's up 27% in one day, XRP. You got to rush in, right? But forgetting the fact that if they wouldn't have dropped it 40% in the last couple of days, we're still down 25% from even the $1.77 area. So really all we're doing is making up ground from who they liquidated. That's the crazy thing. Now you got to think about all the people from $1.50 that wanted to sell all the way down. When I said it's already too late to do that because you get caught in this liquidity sweep. If you were going to sell, you got to do it at the areas that it tells you. You don't want to get caught in the drop. You don't want to sell the falling knife because even though it looks like a falling knife, you always back test the drop, even if it's going to continue. This should be another lesson, like a big lesson. It is for everybody, even when I watch this stuff. Because if I ever get caught in a position, I always have to remember, look what just happened again today. No matter how bad it looks, you usually retest the drop, or if it drops, you retest that point, or if you're rising up, you usually retest where you came from. So it's a perpetual loop. So if you can just remember that in the middle of a trade and not get so panicked, even if you're down, but you haven't done the proper back test. Now, this could turn into something unbelievable for us if this continues and we break past barriers. But we'll see. I never get too excited at the initial push when I don't see what I want to see. But if we overtake certain areas, I can get really excited really quick. There's no doubt about that. XDC is going to be the golden ticket right now. We'll see how it reacts now that it came up into this area. We'll see if it can come all the way back up here. We'll see if this is some kind of a top now that it did this, but I don't know. Sometimes that ends up being the case, but not always. I have to have two XDC charts so we can see the volume. XDC put in some volume here. That's not... The last few candles, especially, have been very stagnant, which could be a little concerning. So we'll see if we get a push in volume. But definitely have had a phenomenal rise up here in crypto. VChain I'm a little surprised about, only up 10%, but getting the same over exhaustion as the rest. So either that means that it's going to have a bigger push up here if we continue, because that drop point is way up there around 9.400. I can't even believe we're under $1 or a penny by that much still. So we're up 10%, but we're 20% below a penny now. 11 a.m. sell-off before lunch. It definitely could be. But we could fall into that for sure. We'll see. Let's see what MQ put in the Telegram. Very, very valuable information, I'm sure. Yep. That's a nice box you're watching. That's the one I'm watching for that mid-tier level. I extended it out to $1.57 because I like to give it over the top wick room. But yeah. Definitely, that's the exact spot I'm watching, MQ. Exactly. This is the next area of contention. That $1.57-ish, I guess you could say $1.55. I just like to measure it up against that breakdown to back test it. So we'll see. We'll see if that plays through. Then the 618's up there at $1.63.7, which is great that you have that on there. Thank you for that, my friend. Um, so yeah, I like this. We can see we're coming up to the real, this is the first real break point. Besides, like at the 702, he has the $1.36. Very close to that $1.34 area, $1.36. How you can extend it out to, what was it, dollar? You have a $1.42 here, which is nice. Then a $1.48, $1. I like all these levels you have marked. They're all very consistent with the resistance that we've been coming through. Um, so excellent, excellent. Well, I would like to believe, Carl, that because of the way that I present things and what my standard is, that I want factual information from a charting perspective as well, not just Huff. I think I attract the right people like MQ and Nick and a lot of others that know what they're talking about. And they might waste their time with me rather than somebody else just because we see on the same page kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I think we all are on the same line of thinking. So it makes it a little bit easier. We're on the same frequency right now. Bitcoin. Man, Bitcoin's a tricky one to me. Because I did this yesterday on the phone. I wish it would have stayed on. When it started to reverse last night, I had this on the phone. I don't know why it doesn't save this sometimes, but it's really annoying. I had this. To try to give myself a downtrend that was starting. And I didn't go all the way back. I did it like this. I like to overextend it down just in case it starts to break down. But I did this last night. So I just wanted to see. That's not even right still. There was this downward and it sloped like this. I want to see if Bitcoin comes up, if it can get out of that slope. So 67,280 was something to remember. But now I'm looking at 71,000, 72,000 area roughly. I think it was. I have that right. Because you can extend this back as well. And then if you do it like this, but I didn't necessarily like it like this. I don't mind it. Gives you a little bit higher. But I was really interested when it had this downward slope back here and then it came back up. Because that almost looked like a bump and run there. A mini bump and run pattern. How you get almost like the M form. You start to run up and then you crash. It almost seemed like a bearish bump and run. Or a bearish, not bump and run, but a bearish, because a bump and run would technically be bullish, but the, what the fuck's the pattern? I'm having a brain fart. Somebody has to know what I'm talking about. I did not see so many negative narratives YouTube. No. Not necessarily. It hasn't been the traditional wipeout phase so far. It's starting. One of the key things here, I'll finish that in a sec, but one of the key things we talked about for that drop for Bitcoin, remember the target I've had for a long time? This is the thing that gets me to think that just maybe, and I preface this by saying maybe, one of my conditions to continue this bull run, as you all know, at minimum, was to back test that 59,700 area roughly, where that cup and handle breakout occurred when you overextend it. And we absolutely, the funny thing is, it absolutely hit that. It hit it almost to the T, that 59,752. Or that 60, it hit it, but it hit it here. So, it hit it earlier than where I had it. So it absolutely took that out. The fact it back tested that is something that gives me like, you know what? Now we really have to pay attention to see if this is a real reversal. Obviously, we need to back test a few different moves to validate this. Even with Bitcoin, if this is going to go up, we're going to need to get a little bit more steam and clear out in some of the shorter context. So likely what will happen is even if it continues up, at some point they're going to liquidate the newcomers. I guarantee it. Like you might see a 7 to 10% pullback real quick just to liquidate the ones who woke up this morning. Or just something quick to continue this push. My swings have had the Kramer effect lately. Right about that. Juan says, oh yeah, Juan, I just answered that. Thank you for being in town for over 1 year at the I Told You So Bad. Along with Sauna Illusion, A-Man, and Carl. Smeek, appreciate you. Says, here comes the blood. Coming up to the bottom side, a previously bullish FVG from November 24 would expect it becomes resistance. I know it's all an illusion. That's so incredibly important with this area. And that's why I don't get excited today just because it's up 25%. Because I know if you just compare it from where it started yesterday, we're actually down. So this, I think, sometimes is a strategic way for them to do things. But don't get me wrong. Bitcoin bounced down at that level I really wanted to see to clear out. That was hugely important for me. Hugely. I can't even stress how important that was. So now we need to see. For XDC, 2.2 cents was on the table, but I've made it very clear. If we come down there, it invalidates the all-time inverse head and shoulder, and we were very close to where we couldn't possibly come down any further. I drew this out. If it came down past some of these areas, it invalidates that whole structure. So we needed to do something at this line. We absolutely needed to do something instead of breaking down, and it did in a big way. Now, could it come back and retest 3.5, 3.6, or come all the way up here first? And then it absolutely can. And we might be in the process of starting to slow down a little bit here this morning in a big way, because when it happens, it's going to happen quick. And we're going to go from everything being up, and then across the market, it's going to be down like 7% from the top, and everybody's going to be like, wait a minute. I just got to work, took a piss, and what's going on here? Everything was rolling, and now I bought, and I'm down. This is bullshit. That's what we're looking for. Red volume is, in the smaller time frames, yes, it is increasing if you look at it. And the buy volume just hasn't been there for my liking. XDC, it gave a little bit more. When you look at this 45-minute candle, it's starting off dicey. It's got to get on its horsey pretty quickly here. You do not want to break $1.50 and better yet $1.48. You want to be on top of that $1.50, $1.50 as well, in my opinion. So we'll see. We're right at that point. So this is fun. This is where it gets fun. It's on illusion side. Yesterday was really technical on most charts. However, bottoms don't usually V-shape with no pullback, and oftentimes one more lower low to swipe liquidity. And I think that lower low would be that 86 to 92 cent zone if it does do that, personally. I got to put my watch on the charger. Apparently I forgot to charge it. And it measures my vitals because I want to know what's going on. Now, if you guys feel like you're left out in the cold, not just from a trading standpoint, but also from a market psychology standpoint, from the standpoint of not being taught what you should have in economics, not understanding what the value of a dollar is, or what money is versus currency, or what a unit of debt, you know, what a store of value, why Bitcoin's not a store of value, and why gold and silver would be considered. If you want to know about the monetary policy, if you want to know about everything in between, that'll allow you to be a great trader, not just the technicals, which we will get into when the time is right. I am teaching classes that started this week. I do it over on Zoom from a professional standpoint. It's like you're in an online college course. But I allow you to watch it through YouTube and pay for the classes through YouTube, as I allow it to be viewable there through the lives, so you don't have to take on the double cost. But if you want to learn more than just the charts, but get the charts as we get progressing through, it's a beautiful thing. I think there's 40 people in it. We've done 2 classes so far. There's a link in the video description below under our pinned comments, and it's going to take 3 seconds. All you have to do is be in the membership area, and if you're a member of Tom's Harmony, just hit upgrade. Go down to the live classes, and I'm already currently signed in. I'm joined, and it's an ever growing database, and right now there's 2 that you can watch after. You don't have to be there in real time. That's not what it's about. You can go and watch it back. And in the live class section, we have class 1. I appreciate you coming in. And we have class 2. So all of these, you can see it in there from the past, but they really should be deleted. But that's something that was in another category that I don't even do anymore. But those are the classes there, and it'll pop up. If you're not a member, it'll show up, but you won't be able to watch them. It'll just show up on your YouTube. So I encourage you. Yeah, traders do have to be more exhausted, that's for sure. Carl says, I'm going to rewatch the classes this weekend. Great class. I appreciate that. A lot of time went into that. Now that the perverts are going to lunchtime to watch minute candlesticks. Well, I mean, think about it. Isn't it ironic how it happens at the same times of the day? The liquidity sweeps. Like, we were talking about this at the start. Like, even if we push up, I mean, these are the areas. But I love how this audience looks. Look at XLM down 8.5% on the XLM XRP pairing. Incredible. Where's the XDC XRP pairing? I didn't even notice it took that off. Interesting. XDC or oh, wait a minute, I wanted to do it the other way. XDC is up 1.43% in the pairing today versus XRP. Where's XLM? XLM is down 8.5% versus XRP. So if you're asking me what the better deal is right now, if we got a continuation at some point, well, XLM, but look at how we came perfectly up to that resistance right now. Now we're going to decide. We didn't just stop here for no reason. This is the resistance areas on everything. This is where we're going to find out if it's going to be a bigger move before a correction. Volume is less than desirable right now, in my opinion. I don't see the volume portfolio I want. But John Bugathorpe, if you're still here, I apologize. But for algo, if it comes back up all the way and retest this, that could be all the way up at 10.5 cents roughly. But if we come down to the lower levels, I've drawn it out here. Worst case scenario, we have to make a third tap on this support. So we hit it the first time, April 1st of 2020, right around 9.5. We hit it a second time at about 8 cents on April 1st of 2023. If we want to hit it a third time, it would be like 5.4 cents or some crap like that. Or, I mean, zeros, or what is it? About 5 cents. So 5 cents if it wants to tap that downtrend for a third time. That would be, in my opinion, you would hope, you would beg that to be the worst case scenario. Because if you break that, we've got bigger problems than just that. And the target would be much worse. But look at that. We never came all the way back up. But what we did is we got cut off here. So, I mean, this became a lot worse over time. And this is the actual pattern it's in, John. If you're wondering about algo, if we have a run up, what you could possibly see over the top, that's actually how it cut it back. If you want to just be honest about it, none of the fluff, none of the nonsense, just the extreme pattern. This is where we're at. So if you want to look at history, if we never break out of here and then it breaks down, what your positioning is not to get the $10, everybody. I try to say this all the time. Or $5 or back to all-time highs. Your positioning right now is for that move to 43 cents. And if that's all it is, that's all it is. You know what I'm saying? Nah, it's on illusion. I can't argue with you. Got opportunity yesterday, itching more today, but the problem is, you know, we haven't got any kind of validation, and this is exactly where I could see it just rugging a little bit. Not saying you're going to get back all 24%, but would you be surprised if in the afternoon we're up 15% on XRP and retesting those mid-tier points in the mid-$40s, assuming we lost $1.50? I wouldn't be too surprised. But then again, let's just see, let's just see. I was very intrigued yesterday. There was well over 200 people when we were dropping yesterday, which was, there was more people yesterday dropping than there is with the green today, which is actually encouraging for me. That means more people were paying attention to what was going on yesterday. And today they're slightly intrigued, but they're just doing their own thing. They don't really care. They're just going to buy, or sell. They're not too much cared about. You know, they're just in their own, which is fine. That's good. People have to be like water and not get stuck in one idea or mind state. You have to see a trend shift on smaller time frames before it appears on more. Absolutely, it's all an illusion. And that's why I want to see if we can, you know, that's why I keep my mind open to saying there's no guarantee, even though it looks like it can go lower. The fact that Bitcoin finally retapped that 60K area, which is the back test of the cup and handle breakout that led us to 126, that's a big back test to me. That's always been a big moment of contention for me. Always. Just like the $1.34 and $1.18. Fortunately, it went down to $1.13 twice and pulled back and held that $1.18 after. Those are big points of contention. But another point of contention is to start making up some ground here. And I would have liked to have... Here's my thing. With such a significant pullback, Bitcoin lost since the top, right, $66,000. It lost more than 50%. XRP was down to it. It lost like 70%. But the buyback volume wouldn't indicate that there's that much of that happened. So either one of two things are happening. We're going to have this continued volumeless push up until finally they turn on the sells. In one fair swoop, you know, we're going to finally start seeing some volume kicking in as we get a confirmation over $1.77 or over $2. And until then, we just push up. Funding rates are negative right now, which essentially means they're paying you to open up a position when you're taking out leverage or whatever. But once it goes positive, absolutely. That's usually a sign that things are about to flip. Let's see. Yeah, Tom Lee is down 8 billion, Saylor's down 6. Yeah, and their companies today, we talked about it. MicroStrategy and Tom Lee, why would you invest in Bitcoin or Ethereum if you thought it was going to go up and have a big reversal? You don't even need to be in the crypto market. That drives leverage away. And now those companies are up 19.5% today and 13.4. So, you know, there's something to be said for that strategy. And that's something that institutions are doing more and more. But, I mean, we can get excited about these big movements, but the bottom line is we fell out so far that it would have to come all the way back up here to retest the pattern at 142. 105 was a great drop. We had 105 and 73. Ironically. And it hit 105. Actually, it almost hit it to the nuts. Those are the two drop-down targets where you could technically try to make a buy. It's interesting how it hits those numbers. But yeah, technicals, a lot of people say don't matter. I want people to keep saying that because it gives us more opportunity to understand. Wow. $21.84 would be the first backtest area. That seems like it fell off the freaking cliff. Where is this? Let me see something. There's been some interesting stuff this morning. Honestly, while you guys are still here, I know we've been here for over an hour and I got to get going soon. But what do you guys think is going to happen? Not just in crypto, but overall. Do you think this is one of those, okay, we had such a big drop that this is just a correction back up for a bigger drop? Or do you think something flipped? Do you think something flipped? Or do you think that this is just normal operating procedure? Kind of overshadow the further drop in the dollar down to 97.62 as our purchasing power is down another 1/3 of 1% today. Government 10-year bonds are up 3 basis points to 4.22 to up point 2/3 of 1%. The 20-year treasury is down 1/4 of 1%, so negatively inverted again, which is ironic. Oil's up 1.3%. Miners are up 4 to 6%, whether it's oil or crypto or platinum. Seems to be pretty universal. Some over 7. Cryptos, you've had extraordinary pullbacks. Some are up 10, some are up 25, depending on how much bigger the drops were. You know, it seems to be largely dependent on how big of drops each individual token had based on their gains today. XDC's pulled back about 6% now. So we'll see if that's starting something for the broader market or not. But yeah, I'll be very curious. I'm XRP Future Millionaire. We'll touch base with this in a little bit. I really appreciate all of you. How do you gauge how do you gauge volume? Well, I mean, a simple thing is that you pull up a chart and you start looking at the volume. Start looking at the weekly, monthly, daily. See if you see any anomalies. Right now, we've got a lot of daily sell volume. Maybe we got some pullback in the 4-hourly, but you know, this 4-hour candle in particular is going to be a big deciding factor because we had a nice push up at the end of that candle. And now this is going to be everything. This is either, because of how that wick is, this is either the continuation or this is going to be where we wick up. And then all of a sudden this will turn into a reversal candle and turn into a doji, a bearish doji. This is where it's very, very dangerous if you're not in the market. This is the danger candle. This is the danger candle. It can very well break out to $1.77 or $1.60, but it could also be with any kind of sell pressure, that candle that could ultimately reverse the market. So you kind of want to make sure that that's not going to happen before you get yourself trapped. So can you say final words for XRP? Yeah, the final words for XRP, honestly, make sure what I just said doesn't play out. Make sure we can overtake $1.57 and make sure that the volume continues to increase at the very least in the 4-hourly so that we can continue this bullish continuation that we've had on the reversal. But if we don't, well, the volume is on the bottom. You always have a volume chart. It's right there. I have it on here every single day. That's your volume per exchange. You can look at a volume tracker deeper than this, but I like to keep it per exchange so you can see the differentials. You always have a working average. 21.8 million, and you can break it down by segment, even in the 1 minute. You always have that, but you have to put that indicator on. I just do straight volume. I don't want any kind of separation. Because you're going to see a significant breakout. So see this 4-hour sell volume? You see that if we go into a daily? So if we had 21 million in volume on the sell, and now in the 4-hour we're coming to resistance, right? And we're equal. Now this next candle, if we want to get some confirmation, maybe instead of a 24 million, you're looking at 210 million on the 4-hour. That'd be a great confirmation, 10 times volume spike. As you're pushing through an area of resistance, that would be a confirmation. If you can get follow through. Or with the daily, you want to see we got a lot of red. Now, if this can hold now the next daily candle, let's say we get a huge green spike. You know, instead of having 72 million, like we have 58 million here. Before that, we had 72 on the drop. So this is still decreasing as the price pulls up. That's technically not a good diversion, but we still have 7 hours, so we don't know. Now we'd want to see a big spike. Like, okay, we're in the resistance area. It pushes through, and all of a sudden, instead of 70 million, now we got 400 million of green volume that all of a sudden comes in to push through this resistance. I hope that's a good way to describe it. But you really want to see a spike. Or in the same sense, if this gets rejected and it comes back down, we had 70 million in sell volume. Now if it came down and now we get 150, that's just confirming. Or maybe we get equal. But if this gets rejected and it comes back down and we get to 86, and instead of having 72 and 58, now all of a sudden we got 10 million, well, now all of a sudden you know something's wrong in the other direction. That volume is not appropriate for a drop. And now it's telling us we're about to have a huge reversal. You know, these are things we want to see. So you're just comparing volume on each chart to previous volumes and watching it daily to see if it's up or down. In a sense, there's a little more that goes into that. But yeah, that's a basic rookie move to just look at it like that. And not in a bad way. Just so you can have some kind of understanding. Yeah, I've talked about XDC a few times in this live. It's our front runner. So it was up 32%. We're going to see if it starts the inevitable pullback. XDC had a little bit more volume than the rest. But again, we're going to see real quickly if this is something real or if this is fake. I have a very, very bad feeling with the way this all came up that we just need to hold this 4-hour candle. This is the 4-hour candle that, as long as it doesn't go into a doji, we can continue up to 4-2. But if this pulls back into a bearish doji, that's my fear right now. So let's just get past this 4 hours and we can reconvene. But just look for that to happen if it does. If it doesn't, look for the continuation up. We just want to look at the, well, what would be the first sign there's something wrong here? And that would be the first problem. You're welcome to find, and thanks for being a very trusted mod in here in the Telegram. It's ironic. Everybody was asking me about the Ripple roadmap that was released. If anybody's on my Facebook, did anybody catch what I released before it was released in the news? Because I caught it in their algorithm. I actually released a roadmap yesterday, believe it or not, 16 hours ago. And everybody's like, where did you get this? I dug it up in the underground. So I actually posted about this before it was even posted about. If you want to get that level of news, go join my Facebook channel. I can do more on there than I can do on YouTube because I can write it out. I actually posted about this before they posted about it today. And I got a lot of comments in here that said, oh no, there wasn't a lot of comments. Not a lot of people cared about this, but you know, they all, oh no, yes, there was comments, but it was posted. It's in a group because it cross-posts to groups if you wanted to. That's where the conversation was. I got to find where it was cross-posted. But anyhow, I forgot that it's separate on Facebook, but you still get the credit for it because I get a lot of views through there through the cross post. But yeah, we still been at 245,000 views yesterday. Engagement's still been doing good. 17,000 yesterday, so still moving up. We went over 13,000 followers yesterday. I don't know. Today's only I don't know how many followers there's been. 34 so far today. So it's been nice. It's been a good thing. It's been a real good thing on there. But yeah, I posted about that roadmap yesterday, ironically. And there's a lot of questions saying, I don't see this posted anywhere. So where did you find it? And it's like, I can't really say where I found it. I just happened to see it posted. I do have a Telegram for Tom's Army members because there was too many spammers. So if you join Tom's Army, you can go and do it through the membership area in YouTube. There's 502 members in there. Some of them have been gifted subs. If you're gifted a sub, you can go in there, but you just gotta, I'll seek you out if you're not cool, kind of thing. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you all so much because we're in that volatile state and I don't want to overfund it now. I don't want to overshoot it and I don't want to overcomplicate it. Just simply pay attention to what I said at the end of this so you can see whether or not this 4-hourly continues on or if it ends up being some kind of shakeout candle. And it just started. There's 3 hours and about